Hello everyone! On behalf of the Real Estate Council of Alberta, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for our information session about getting licensed. As you can see from the agenda, we'll be covering a lot of information today. Due to the large number of attendees, the chat feature is disabled and all participant microphones will remain muted for the duration. When we have concluded our presentation, feel free to ask us any general questions by inputting them into the Q&A dialog box. We'll respond to as many questions as we can before wrapping up. Today's presentation provides general information about eligibility, education, and licensing requirements and processes. If you have any questions about your specific circumstances, we ask that you contact the Registration Services team by phone or email during regular business hours to discuss them. Our contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. We'll be emailing a copy of the presentation and a recording of this information session to all participants. With that, let's get started. I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to the Registration Services team and to RECA. I'm Shauna Risden, the Registration Services Manager. Joining me today are three of our registration specialists, Crystal, Dana, and Simran. Registration specialists are RECA's experts in eligibility and licensing requirements. They respond to incoming inquiries by phone, email, and in person, and they review and process all eligibility and labor mobility applications and licensing documents. They'll be assisting me in responding to your questions at the end of the presentation. All members of the Registration Services team are RECA brand ambassadors, and we strive to embody RECA's values. We aim to protect, inform, and elevate through all of our day-to-day interactions with applicants and licensees. Our goal is to surpass RECA's service excellence principles as we carry out our important function of vetting applicants and their credentials. RECA licenses and regulates three distinct but related industries within Alberta: real estate, mortgage brokerage, and condominium management. Anyone who provides these services to consumers in Alberta must be licensed through RECA. An often overlooked but important distinction to make is that property management and condominium management are different areas of practice. In fact, property management is a sector within the real estate industry. Condominium management is a separate industry altogether. If you want to be licensed in one of these industries, you've come to the right place. There are three primary phases in the path to getting licensed: the eligibility phase, the education phase, and the licensing phase. Depending on your circumstances, you may have to complete all the steps in the education phase, some of these steps, or none of them. We'll cover all the information you need to know about the three phases as we get further into the presentation. Before you get started in the first phase, eligibility, we recommend that you carefully review the eligibility requirements that are applicable to your circumstances and ensure you can meet them, as your application fee is non-refundable. If you have determined that you meet the eligibility requirements for your particular circumstances, you can get started by creating a MyRECA account and completing the first-time login process. The answers you provide in the first-time login process will guide you to the correct eligibility or labor mobility application. Complete the relevant application and pay the application fee. Once you have completed payment, you can begin uploading your identification documents. Contact any third parties that will need to send documents to us on your behalf. The first phase you must complete in your path to getting licensed is the eligibility phase. You must meet certain eligibility requirements before you can enroll in and complete pre-licensing education or have your non-Alberta license recognized through labor mobility. We'll cover these requirements in depth over the next several slides. It's important to note that there are different requirements depending on your path. Let's dig in. All applicants must meet the first eligibility requirement, which is to provide proof of their identity and ability to work in Canada. RECA is mandated to protect consumers and the integrity of the industries we regulate. Registration specialists employ rigorous identification measures to ensure RECA achieves its mandate. The first identification document that all applicants must provide is a profile photo. Your profile photo should be clear, face-centered, and should not obscure your identity. Keep in mind your profile photo will be visible to RECA staff and your future broker. The second identification document that all applicants must provide is a source identification document, such as a birth certificate, PR card, proof of Canadian citizenship, or a valid work permit. This document contains your full legal name and is the name that will appear in your MyRECA account and on your future license. If your source identification document does not contain a first name, your MyRECA account and future license will not include a first name either. If you're a work permit holder and your work permit contains a study restriction, additional requirements will apply. The third identification document that all applicants must provide is a copy of one piece of government-issued photo identification. There are several examples of this type of identification that you can provide. Make sure this identification document has been issued within the last 5 years and hasn't expired. Please note you cannot substitute a passport for the source identification document because passports do not always contain a person's full legal name. The second eligibility requirement that all applicants must meet is proof of English proficiency. Licensees must be able to practice proficiently in Alberta's official language. RECA's minimum English proficiency standard is successful completion of English 30 in high school or equivalent. If you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RECA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RECA. Not all members of ACESC include the language of instruction in their assessments. Your assessment must state that the language of instruction for your course or diploma or degree program was English. If you're unable to provide a Canadian education transcript or an assessment of your international education, you can have your English assessed by one of the institutions listed. There are minimum scores that you must meet for each of these tests, and your test must have been completed within the past 3 years. The third eligibility requirement, proof of completion of a minimum of high school or equivalent, applies to new licensees only. If you hold a license in another Canadian province or an international jurisdiction outside of Canada, this requirement does not apply to you. If you are a new licensee applicant, not a labor mobility applicant, and you completed your education in Canada, you can request your high school, college, or university to send your transcript directly to RECA. If you didn't graduate high school but received your GED, you can request Alberta Education to send it to us. If you completed your education outside of Canada, you can have your international high school, college, or university transcript assessed by a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluation Services of Canada and sent directly to RECA. The fourth and final eligibility requirement applies to labor mobility applicants only. If you're licensed in another jurisdiction within Canada or hold a license abroad, you must provide proof of licensure in good standing. Your licensing history must be sent by the regulatory body in your originating jurisdiction directly to RECA, and it must include your disciplinary history. Once all required supporting documents have been received for your eligibility or labor mobility application, your application is complete and will be automatically submitted to our processing queue. The Registration Services team processes applications in the order they are received. We receive between 150 and 200 completed eligibility and labor mobility applications every week. This is in addition to the dozens of other applications we receive, along with managing consistently high call and email volumes daily. You can help the Registration Services team review and process incoming applications and respond to calls and emails in a timely manner by viewing the status of your application and required supporting documents in your MyRECA account instead of contacting us for updates. Once your application is complete and has been submitted to our processing queue, you can expect an email with the outcome of our review within the next several business days. You can view our current processing times on the MyRECA login screen or on the My Applications page of your MyRECA account. Much like the eligibility requirements, the education phase differs depending on your circumstances. New licensees that are not licensed in another jurisdiction must complete pre-licensing education and exams before they can apply for their license. Canadian labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education and exam requirements. International labor mobility applicants are exempt from pre-licensing education but must successfully complete the related exams. All pre-licensing education courses must be completed through a recognized course provider. Pre-licensing exams are developed by RECA and administered by our partner, Measure Learning. Once you have completed the first two phases, the eligibility phase and the education phase, you're ready to move on to phase 3, licensing. If you haven't already, you'll want to meet with a few brokers to find a brokerage that is a fit for you and get your criminal record check, or CRC, underway. When you have found a brokerage and we have received and processed your CRC, your broker will initiate your licensing application for you through MyRECA. The entire licensing process is completed online, and provided there are no suitability matters that the registrar needs to review, your license will be issued automatically in a few simple steps. As a first-time licensee in Alberta, you must provide a current criminal record check, or CRC, to be eligible for licensing. Your CRC must be less than 6 months old at the time you apply for your license. When you're ready to apply for your license, complete the digital CRC application through your MyRECA account. We'll get the results in a couple of days from our partner, Mintz Global Screening, and we'll email you when we've received and processed it. All first-time licensees must demonstrate that they are of good character and are suitable for licensing. Certain events that have taken place in the past may bring your character into question. Events such as bankruptcies, discipline, criminal charges and convictions, and certain civil judgments must be disclosed at the time of licensing and could impact your ability to get a license. If you're concerned about something in your past that may impact your suitability for licensing, you may request an opinion from the registrar as to your suitability. This is called a suitability review. If you choose to undertake a suitability review, your eligibility application fee includes this. We do not recommend that labor mobility applicants request a suitability review. The intention of a suitability review is to avoid the significant financial and time investment in completing pre-licensing education and exams prior to applying for and being refused a license due to suitability concerns. We've included a comprehensive list of resources to assist you along your journey to getting licensed. We've also included our contact information should you need help along the way. As mentioned, we'll email this presentation to you when we've concluded our Q&A session so that you can refer back to this page or any page in the presentation at any time. That concludes our presentation on getting licensed. Thanks for sticking with us. We'd like to take a moment to find out what kind of applicant you are. Please respond to the poll we've initiated and then post any questions you have in the Q&A dialog box. We'll give you a few minutes to respond to the poll and enter your questions before we begin responding. Hi, everyone. We'll just give another minute or two for the poll and allow you some time to get your questions in. I see a couple have come in already. I'm Shauna. This is Dana.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll get started with the questions. We do have a smaller group today, so this may not go very long. Feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A, and we'll answer what we can. And if we end up wrapping up and you think of a question later, you can certainly contact us by email or phone, and we can help you out after the webinar. Okay, so first question. For the source identification document, is a work permit for which an extension application is applied to IRCC valid? Work permit for which an extension application is applied. That depends, and that's sort of a more of a personal rather than general question. There are some specific parameters around work permits, completing education courses while you're on a work permit, depending with if it has study restrictions, etc. So I would recommend that you do send us an email or give us a call, and we can look at your circumstances specifically. You can email us at registration@reca.ca, and we'll be happy to answer that for you. Click this and say it was answered already. Okay, next question. If I just want to be a property manager, do I still need a brokerage? So all licensees have to be licensed with a brokerage, property management included. Now, again, in the presentation, we mentioned that property management is a sector within real estate. So you would have to have a real estate license with the property management authorization, and then you would need to be licensed with a real estate brokerage to perform those activities. Next question, what is the time window in which we have to complete the education? I see Simran's typing in answer that. I'm going to let Simran answer that question, and we'll skip to the next one. After I submit the identification, do I have to take the English proficiency test if I completed schooling in Canada? Oh, that one just jumped. After you submit the identification, do you have to take the English? Well, if you completed your education in Canada and you've got grade 12 English or equivalent, then you don't have to take an English proficiency test. So I'm going to refer to the screen that I'm sharing. The guide to applying for eligibility is really your source of truth for all of the requirements, whether it's identification, education standard, or English proficiency. So on the table of contents on this guide, it's clickable, so you can just go to requirement 3, English proficiency, and you can read all the various ways by which an individual can demonstrate proof of English, whether they completed their education in Canada or not. Okay, so next question. Where are the reliable sources to search for a brokerage, and what are the specific criteria to choose a brokerage? That might be a question you want to direct to your local board. We do have a public license search on our website. I'm just going to navigate there. If you go to the Find a Licensee area, you can search for brokerages by city. That's a way you could find brokerages. That doesn't necessarily mean they're hiring or recruiting, but that might be an avenue as well. And networking. You know, if you know folks that are already practicing and they're happy with their brokerage, you could canvass, you know, social media groups where licensees hang out and see if you can get some recommendations that way. Okay, so I don't see any new questions that have popped in. I'm just gonna sort of quickly go through a couple of things on the website that I've referenced already. So all of the information that you could possibly get your fingertips on with respect to becoming licensed in one of the industries we regulate is on the licensees and learners getting licensed page. So if you go to this page, you'll find the eligibility requirements, the licensing process for people coming through the education eligibility path, people that are coming through the labor mobility path have their own sort of section. And if you happen to be a former licensee that's returning, there's a special section there as well. And on each of these pages, you will find the guide. So the guide that we were just looking at, where I said you can click on the table of contents and find the area that you're looking for. You'll find that guide, pardon me, that's available here. And there's also some sort of further downstream guides that will assist new applicants getting licensed. So the step-by-step guide to getting your license, that's going to look like this busy little diagram. So there's basically 3 phases if you're in the eligibility path, numerous steps within each one of those phases, but this can kind of help you navigate from beginning to end what that process is going to look like. We have one of those for the eligibility path as well as labor mobility, both Canadian applicants and international applicants. And then we've also got the guide to applying for a criminal check, which is done through your RECA account, as well as the guide to good character for licensing applicants. And the presentation that we do email out to all the participants on that second last page does include links to all of these resources. I realize I'm navigating through our website very quickly because I navigate it every day and I just know where everything is. But if you're not sure how to navigate around, then you can go to that list of resources that is included at the end of the presentation and find the specific document that you're looking for. Okay, I do see one more question has come in. Is there any deadline after paying the fee that we have to complete and get a license? So there's numerous points of payment along the way. I'm not sure which fee you're referring to. So essentially, you will apply for your eligibility or labor mobility. You'll pay a fee for that application. You've got unlimited time to complete that application. You'll pay for your education courses to the third-party provider that you're enrolled with. You'll pay for your exams. You'll have 1 year to get licensed once you've completed your practice course exam. So I hope that I've answered that. There's various timelines and various fees that are paid along the way. So I'm not really sure what other deadline you might be referring to. If I didn't answer your question, feel free to send us an email to clarify what you were looking for. Again, our email address is registration@reca.ca. Okay, so I don't see any new questions that have come in, and I realize that I have stolen the stage entirely from Dana. And not to put you on the spot, but is there anything that you would want me to highlight on our website for anybody that I haven't already covered? Is there any special consideration that people should really pay attention to?
I would just say, Shauna, is just I really encourage applicants to read the eligibility guide and go step by step before paying the fee and starting the application to determine if you're going to meet those requirements or if you need some more time to figure out the documents that are going to be required. The documents listed in that guide are the only documents that we accept. So I think it's very important to have a good read through before making the payment on that application.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I'll mention too is we do tend to get a lot of the same questions or same themes of questions. And so we've distilled those down over time into a set of FAQs. These are very, I mean, it's frequently asked questions, but these are really frequently asked questions that almost every applicant will contemplate at some point along the way. So I would strongly encourage, if you're thinking about applying for eligibility and then moving through that process, do have a read of those FAQs, because a lot of the really straightforward things that we understand, because we do this every day, are not super clear or easily understood for new applicants. So FAQs as well. Okay, last chance for questions. I don't see any in there right now. We might wrap up now, and oh, I do see one.
Material on.
Okay, so is study material available on RECA's website? No, we do not deliver the education. We create a set of competencies that are required to be instructed on by third-party providers, and then we administer the pre-licensing exam for all of the course providers. So we don't have study material per se available for the courses. That would be something you may be able to get through your course provider. Obviously, you'll have access to a course. I don't know if there's additional study material. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but RECA doesn't have any. What we do have is a practice exam that's available. So before you go ahead and write your full pre-licensing exam, you can do a bit of a practice exam to see if you're prepared to write the actual pre-licensing exam.
And the list of approved course providers is on our website. So if you want to do some research and determine the course layout, who's offering, the timeframes you have to complete the work, some applicants like to have a look at that while they're in the process of their application, just to determine which course provider they're going to go with. And there's also a guide that helps make that choice.
Yeah, and
guide you through it as a personal choice, but some factors to consider.
And I'll just point out the distinction here. You're not going to be going to the course providers tab on our website. That's sort of a information repository for the course providers themselves. You want to be going to the licensees and learners tab and then going to pre-licensing education. So how to choose a course provider is listed here. So you can download that guide and have a look. And then all of the various course providers for the various courses that are required for licensing are listed. It includes the number of exams that have been written against that particular course, what was the success rate, and what was the average score. So that can kind of help you find the course that you're looking for. Again, in terms of study materials, we don't have that information, but your course provider of choice may have something for you. Okay. Abrar says, thanks for answering the questions. No problem at all. We are going to wrap it up.
Good questions, Abrar.
Yeah, it was great questions. That went a little faster than usual, but that's okay. And again, if you think of a question that you didn't ask and you're curious about after the webinar is ended, again, you can always reach out to the team anytime via email or by phone, and one of the registration specialists would be more than happy to put you in the right direction. All right, thanks again, everyone, for attending. Have a great day.
Good afternoon.